everybody. This is Shawn Harwell. You're listening to the Never Heard of It podcast once again. Thank you for coming, and today I am joined, as always, by Baahubali himself.
Craig Moorhead. That's right. That's right. Thank you for joining us for this mini episode where we talk about things that are going on currently that are not hiding from view.
Nope.
If you're wondering where you can interact with us, you can find us on the internet, on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. Twitter, we are at Never Podcast. On the internets, we are neverheardpodcast.com. We're out there. You can find us. You can find us on iTunes and even leave a review and subscribe, which would be cool.
Speaking of iTunes, Craig, I don't know, maybe you can confirm this for me. I was checking out the Apple Podcast app the other day, and I suspect if you're using that to listen to our show, you're doing it wrong, because I could not figure out how to display the individual episode artwork on that app. So just so you know, if you're using that and you didn't know, man, we do artwork for every single episode. And some of it's pretty cool looking, some of it's really funny, some of it's bloody and gross, some of it's just straight up pornography. So find yourself another app that will show those things, and they're out there. There's no shortage.
That's true.
Of them.
That has been a problem, and I don't know that there is a solution, because I don't know of any podcast that has separate images for every podcast that I see when I use iTunes. iTunes is the one I normally use.
Oh, they're out there.
So I've been depriving myself of those images. It's very sad.
Well, Craig's going to resolve that, and you should too. But either way, we're just happy to have you listen. Yeah, and like you said, we're just going to jump into a bunch of different news here today and just talk about the state of the world. And I think we should start just by saying, thank God, no Writers Guild strike. I'm very happy, obviously, for a number of reasons, but mostly just to not have a stoppage of work for anybody. That's good. I don't have anything else to add to that, really. Honestly, if you want to know more, you can call me. But other than that, we'll just move on and say thank you. This actually kind of relates to the business and the negotiations, probably. I read recently, and this is coming from techspot.com, that there was a survey by the Digital Consumer People. There's some consulting firm. They asked 26,000 consumers, not just in America, 26 countries, how they prefer to consume their TV content. Would you believe, and I suspect you will, 23%, only 23% say now they prefer to use their TV as opposed to any other device. 23%.
Wow.
How does that sit with you? And I should point out, just today, when we're recording this, Hulu announced and launched the beta of their live TV streaming option, which is competing with the likes of Sling TV and PlayStation Vue and a few others. So clearly the cord is being cut in a lot of places, but they're not watching on a TV. That was a bit surprising to me. How do you feel? What do you prefer to watch on?
I have the largest TV that I can afford.
What are you looking at, about 13-inch Zenith?
It's a 13-inch black and white, because those are analog, and it has a different quality.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So it's a little warmer.
It's like an LP. It's like a nice LP.
So yeah, I like to watch things big. I like to watch movies as much as possible over almost anything else, and really a lot of TV is movies now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so I like to be able to watch something big. Hopefully I will have a projector at some point in the not too distant future, and I'll be able to watch things even bigger, and my failing eyesight won't bother me so badly. But it doesn't surprise me, and I used to feel very depressed about the fact that was happening. I'm surprised that the percentage is that small, but man, it is. I can understand it's very easy. It's very easy to watch things that way, because you can watch them anywhere you want. If you're a kid in the house and your parents want to watch some boring old cop procedural on broadcast TV and you want to watch something different, you're going to go up with your iPad up in your room and watch that if you have one, you know?
I think that's a good point, because I think, instead of having a TV in every room, like, when we were growing up, I would escape to my room and I inherited the big, gigantic wooden box TV that we had for my room because we got a slightly better, but at least smaller in bulk TV for our family room. But now, like, I don't even think that would cross a kid's mind. I'll just go upstairs with my iPad or my Kindle Fire, these things that cost significantly less than a TV even today, and retreat to that world of YouTube for starters. And then, everywhere else where they're maybe watching TV. But I do, it is kind of interesting to see this number go up to that degree. I mean, it says 42% even just say they would prefer to watch on their laptop or desktop. So it's not even like a mobile device, so you're still feels like you're just kind of sitting at a desk possibly for part of that, or with this hot machine on your lap. But the production value of TV has probably never been better, and yet people have never been watching it on more smaller screens than they are right now.
That's true. And it's funny. I mean, I don't feel the same disturbance that I feel when it's people talking about like not going to movie theaters to watch movies. Like that's still something that bothers me. It still bothers me that almost zero movies are being shot on film. Like that bothers me. But when it comes to like dividing up the TV audience for some reason, I'm like, oh sure, watch it on your phone. I don't know exactly why.
Do you think it has anything to do with the sheer number of TV shows that are available? Because maybe I think in my case, I would probably say the same about music at this point. Like it doesn't bother me to listen to anything on Spotify or YouTube or wherever. I'm paying for it on Spotify. I'm not like stealing it.
Sure. But
some of that is just because of the sheer number of things that are out there. It is honestly easier to access it that way. And maybe there's some correlation between that and the way people are watching TV. It's not as big of a deal because it's just easy to access. I will say this about the writer's strike and tie this all back together. I had a funny conversation last week where I was talking to a guy who said, honestly, I will say if there is a hiatus, at least I'll be able to catch up on some of the TV I haven't watched. I was like, well, shit, that's a good way of looking at a bright side. Anyway.
Yeah. And the other thing that kind of strikes me is even with all this, I mean, so what was it back in the 50s? People who were making movies got nervous about TV stealing their audience. And, and I would say now, like the more and more options are being given to this audience. And yet, I mean, really what the money movies are pulling in doesn't look too bad still.
No.
And so in a way, I feel like great. Everybody consume however you want. Like my biggest thing is I want to make sure movie theaters never go away because that would be really depressing to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as long as everything's kind of healthy, I feel like everybody still wants a movie experience, at some point. But they also want to there's so much stuff to watch that you need to be able to like have a lot of different ways to consume it. So,
Craig,
yeah,
I just had a holy shit moment.
Oh no!
What if TV shows were projected in theaters?
Yeah, well, for instance, whenever the grand finale of Game of Thrones comes around, buy a ticket, go watch it with a huge audience. Yeah. That would be nuts.
Even if you could go every week and watch it on a huge screen with an audience, let's say maybe the ticket is not $9, it's $7, it's $5. I guarantee they would get people that would do that.
Yeah, well, it would have to be the right show.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The problem is you'd get people like me who, if I could do that, I'm probably not going to subscribe to some of these places, to these channels.
Right.
I'll just go watch it. Well, I don't know, every week.
What if you could subscribe to the event?
Yeah.
What if it was just a part of the Netflix package?
Ah, that'd be awesome.
And see, this is kind of what I was talking about when we had our great talk with Brian Crane a few episodes ago.
Man, we were
where
coming
Netflix
up with ideas.
could create these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That'd be interesting.
I'd love to see Game of Thrones on big screen. or something like The Crown, which I haven't watched. Breaking Bad would have been a blast to see. We'll make this happen.
Especially if
we'll make this happen.
Yeah, if the Game of Thrones finale was like a 2.5 hour, just like they just blew all the doors off, that'd be pretty intense. You go watch it at a theater.
I mean, I already feel like some of this stuff is as intense. I mean, again, the production value is there, even though it's smaller, and it feels like they would make so much money off of that.
Yeah.
There's probably some deal in place that prevents that kind of stuff. We'll get to the bottom of this at some point. I'm sure we will. Let's stay at the movie theater though while we're there, because we got to talk about. I didn't even know this. You pointed this out to me today, and this is Wednesday following the weekend of April 30th.
Yeah. So I was going over the box office receipts for the last weekend to see how much money I made off of my movie, The Fate of the Furious.
Mm-hmm. You made about $20 million. Congrats.
Oh yeah, no, we did really well. Thank you.
It was a 48% drop though.
But you know what? I'm happy with it. I feel like we crossed the.
You're gonna make your money back. Yeah.
$1 million mark. Yeah. And anyway, no. So anyway, I'm looking at it, and third on the list is a movie called Baahubali 2: The Conclusion. Now, it might surprise you to know that I was not aware there was a Baahubali 1, which, by the way, is a movie.
I thought you were a big fan.
And is subtitled The Beginning. Mm-hmm. So, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this movie came in number 3 here in the U.S. this past weekend. I had never heard of it before. I believe it's out of India.
Yep.
And I watched the trailer, Shawn, as you did yourself, to try and figure out, how did it pull in that much money with nothing? How did it end up with like third? And I've never heard of this in my life. And I would say, having watched the trailer, even this being a sequel that I haven't seen the first movie to, I would go watch this movie in theater.
Absolutely.
It looks crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think I told you, like, my first thought that came to mind was like, this is like a Zack Snyder movie. Like, it feels like 300 meets some crazy Lord of the Ring in a part of the world that I'm not familiar with at all. And there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, production value looks amazing. We'll put a link to the trailer, and you got to see that. And we discussed maybe we'll try to watch one of the first or the second one at some point for this show. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, clearly they're working with a budget, so I'm guessing the first one was a big hit, at least on the homeland. And word was out there, and this was like an event movie that people were looking forward to. But what's absolutely insane, and third place, like this, these days, who knows what that means? Like, you could make $5 million and come in third place some weekends. They made over $10 million, 425 screens. That's insane. To give you a comparison, Fate of the Furious made $19 million, so almost double, on 4,000 screens. Now, granted, it's been out for 3 weeks, but 4,000 screens compared to 425 screens. You do the math. It made on average $24,000 per theater. That is insane and substantial, and I like it. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, there should be movies that cater to anybody living in this country, and clearly those people came out and supported this thing. And so I think you'll see more of that. I guarantee this is not the conclusion to the Baahubali series, despite what the title says. I mean, I would have to imagine they'll do something else to continue that, because that's just super, super impressive. I mean, it's ahead of Beauty and the Beast and a ton of these movies that Smurfs, The Lost Village, and stuff that's been out there, big franchises.
Well, I mean, let's just say it opened ahead of. It opened above, basically a Tom Hanks movie.
A Tom Hanks
that was starring Emma Watson. I mean, it's not an action thriller. Maybe it didn't grab people or whatever, but still, like those are very notable people. And
The Circle made half of its budget back, so that ain't bad. And it was on 3,000 screens, but still 3,000 screens compared to 425. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. So I suspect there will be a lot of ink spilled over this movie and this particular box office receipt. And we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how it does the next couple of weeks. And also surprised to see that the movie How to Be a Latin Lover came in second. I didn't know much about this movie. I hadn't seen a trailer or anything. But this is directed by Ken Marino, who we talked about in Bad Milo, that episode with Brian O'Connell. And yeah, you got a guy named Eugenio Derbez, who I apologize, I'm not familiar with that actor at all. So obviously a huge opening for him, $14 million. But I did think it was interesting that Rob Lowe, Rob Corddry, and Rob Riggle are all in this. So it's like all the Robs in Hollywood got in on this thing.
Hollywood Robs.
Yeah, they robbed a box office, didn't they?
What?
They didn't. But that's awesome. I mean, that's a great opening for that movie. So very surprising weekend at the box office. Thank God we didn't do predictions like we used to, because we would have been absolutely destroyed like everybody else.
Yeah, no. I need my self-esteem.
Well, this might give you some self-esteem.
Oh.
Because I think this is something to be optimistic about for everybody.
Yeah.
It looks like De Palma's getting back into the director's chair and is going to make a thriller. Well, it's hot off the presses. This is from Variety today. And it looks like he's making a movie called Domino. This is a thriller that's going to star, speaking of Game of Thrones, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Jamie Lannister, basically, and Christina Hendricks from Mad Men and Drive. And listen to this plot. This sounds kind of cool. This is, of course, they got to say, a contemporary high-voltage thriller. Screw all that. That means nothing. So Jamie Lannister plays a Danish cop who goes rogue with the help of a fellow police officer played by Hendricks to track down a killer after his partner is murdered in Copenhagen. That all sounds somewhat familiar, right? It's within the realm of every police movie you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But then you got this little bit, while Europe is being targeted by terrorists. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And what they don't know is that the assailant they are chasing works for the CIA and is on the trail of ISIS. So obviously they're going to get into some bigger kind of global politics, hot topic issues there. And man, I love the idea of De Palma sinking his teeth into something like that. They're throwing out the French Connection in their quotes here, so that ain't a bad thing to be going after. And man, I hope this is something that does happen in a big way, and I hope it's as awesome as it seems like it could be.
Me too. I mean, that's definitely that sort of like over the top twistiness that he does really well. So man, I would love to have some more Brian De Palma movies.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, what is the last one that he did?
Was the last one he did called Passion? Let me look at this.
You're right. Yep. And that was 2012. I thought of Redacted. That's the last one I've seen. I didn't see Passion. It says he's in pre-production on something called Lights Out. So we'll see if that actually happens and beats this other one to the theater, or if Domino, which I'm sure they'll change the title possibly.
Well, even Lights Out, that was already a movie.
Oh yeah, what's going on?
Just
he's like
from last year. Yeah.
Somebody get De Palma a new title guy.
Yeah. My next movie is Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah. Well, but that's exciting. I thought that was pretty awesome. And I want to talk about, I just want to throw two trailers out there that I think are worth checking out today. I don't know if you had a chance or not, but we'll link to these as well. The first is, there was a big Sundance movie called The Big Hit, The Big Hit. That's another movie, right? The Big Sick. Totally different. Oh, yeah. Camille Nanjiani from Silicon Valley, also from Bad Milo. And who else we got here? Zoe Kazan. Ray Romano and Holly Hunter are in this thing, and both look pretty good, and really nice, good, solid indie. I hate saying romantic comedy, but they're throwing that out here heavily in the promos for it, and on that front, it looks really good. I know Apatow is kind of attached to this as a producer, and certainly that feels within his wheelhouse, and directed by Michael Showalter. So Lots of familiar, good names there. And yeah, I'm excited about that. That looks good.
That does. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out.
And I think it's also got some Amazon money behind it too. So again, they're pushing into the film world heavily. Last one is really, really interesting looking documentary from the director of Hoop Dreams. Did you ever see Hoop Dreams, Craig T. Moorhead?
I did see Hoop Dreams. That was quite a movie.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like a devastating but amazing film. If you haven't seen that one, it's another one called Stevie, which I saw, which was pretty good. This is the story, and I knew nothing about this, but apparently one of the only banks that was brought up on federal charges after the collapse in the late 2000s was a small bank called Abacus Bank, which mainly exists in Chinatown in New York and services Chinese immigrants. And the documentary looks at this as a very small family-owned bank, and it's sort of that American dream turned into a nightmare kind of thing, where they're saying we're innocent of the charges that the federal government brought against us. And not only that, look at the, completely impossible to ignore mountain of evidence of these much larger banks doing far worse. So it looks like that's the kind of, talking about being in the moment and important, it feels like this should have a lot of heat to it. And I bet we'll be hearing more from that, especially when I think it's coming to Netflix. I'm not positive on that, but go seek that out if you haven't already. It's a great trailer. Great trailer. Great trailer. Boom. Craig.
Boom. I think we covered everything.
I think we did too. Last thing I want to mention is next week we are talking to, finally, guys, I know you've been complaining about the sausage party. We have a female guest, a lovely woman by the name of Mary Ratliff, who is a fellow podcaster and independent filmmaker. And she talked about a movie called Attack the Gas Station, which was a Korean movie from, I want to say 99, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that one's a little difficult to find. You got to do some digging. It is on YouTube and comes and goes on YouTube. But really interesting one. I think a lot of people might find stuff to like in that one, and that'll be a fun episode. So come back and check that out.
For sure, man. So, Shawn, you got any last words for us tonight?
I do.
Oh.
Supposedly, Quentin Tarantino can't pronounce Harvey Keitel's last name. He calls him Keitel.
I love that.
I think now you can go to sleep and have a wonderful night. That'll just make you happy for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think I'm going to think on that. Yeah, for sure.
Good night, Mr. Keitel.